Hi guys, today we're going to take a look at Leestekens, which is your punctuation marks. Alright, and then I made a punctuation mark, a full stop. Okay, so we have ABC. What do we see? That's very funny. In capital letters, right? When do we use capital letters? When do we use a woof letter? When we want to start a sentence, but also proper nouns. So, for example, Mira, Cape Town, right? All proper nouns. Then we have a full stop, a punt. A punt usually indicates the end of a sentence or in abbreviations. So afkortings, right? So for example, bladsy, BL full stop. Then we have a comma. And usually it's to separate things in a list and also in certain voegwoorde. So like in your group 1 voegwoorde, we have maar and we'll put a comma in front of maar. Then also to separate phrases. So for example, for a list, we'll have like brood, botter, en melk, full stop. Then we have hakkies. It's to indicate extra information. So for example, dit was 'n kat. And then in brackets you'll say, of so het hy gedink. Just to give some extra information. Then a vraagteken, a question mark, you'll put at the end of the question. So for example, what is your naam? And you'll put a question mark to indicate that you are asking them a question. Uitroepteken, exclamation mark, shows exclamation and also can indicate a command, a beveel. So for example, Eina, you are exclaiming. Eina, you're getting hurt. Or it could be a command like, for example, moenie. So don't do that, moenie. Right. Then we have a comma punt, a semicolon. We use semicolons in certain voegwoorde again, like your group 2. Dus, you'll get a comma punt before it. And also separating ideas. So for example, hy swem in die hy swem in die somer, comma punt, hy speel rugby in die winter. You're separating ideas there. Then the double punt. So in Afrikaans, it indicates direct speech. So for example, Zara sê, double punt, and then you'll start with your aanhalingstekens that we'll look at next. And it can also indicate additional information or that a list will follow. Then we get our aanhalingstekens or our quotation marks, inverted commas, and that is to indicate direct speech. Then we have our asterisk. Could be for many things, guys. So to show clarification, correction, and also something important. I usually use it to show, oh, this is important, asterisks, right? Then we have our ellipse or our stipples. So indicate the omission of words, suggesting an incomplete thought. And in poetry, we usually want to create some tension when we use ellipse. Or we want the reader to come up with whatever they are saying. Then, very important, we have the aandagstreep that is also called a koppelteken in Afrikaans, and they have two different functions, right? The aandagstreep, what is aandag? It's attention. So the aandagstreep draws the reader's attention. Why? Because they want to indicate additional information or that an explanation will follow. Then a koppelteken, which is also a dash, but in a koppelteken, when you think of koppelteken, right, think of compound. So your compound words. So for example, 2 uur, you'll use a koppelteken there. Repetitions like lag. When you have titles, when you have compound titles like Lieutenant General, when you have compound words that are joined with N, so like kaas en tamatie toebroodjie. So your N will be between the koppelteken. When you have words with hulle, like ma hulle, you will put a koppelteken between the two words. And then also words indicating direction. You will put a koppelteken between them. So for example, Pretoria Wes. And that is your punctuation in a nutshell. See ya.